Welcome back, Legitimates, to episode 8 of Seamingly Ugly. These two fabrics were sent to me. One is from Canada. So I have decided to do a boxy pouch since everybody is obsessed with those at the moment. But because I didn't feel like quilting them, I've actually used my embroidery machine here to quilt out like a fun rectangle-y kind of design. So I had to do it in two halves. Because the space is bigger than my hoop, which is unfortunate. It would be much better to be able to do it in one big go, but it still worked out really, really pretty. So this is an 8-inch hoop, and it will embroider and quilt the main panel body of everything, but just not the side little bits. I still think it looks fabulous. You do have to move it down a bit because it is just under 16 inches. I won't give the exact measurement because that's not what I do. But this design, 8 inches, you let it kind of overhang a little bit and it's perfect. So once this is done, we can go ahead and get started with the sewing. Alright, so I have my piece of zipper tape and a zipper pull. And you can see I have done the quilting, which was done on the embroidery machine. It didn't do these little end bits, so there's no quilting on these little tab kind of parts, but I feel like it'll be fine. And then I've got my lining, and I have put a medium non-woven interfacing on the back of them just to give them a little bit more stability. Now I'm not going to install this until later. So first off, what we want to do is have a 2.5 stitch length, and then I want to layer these. Now this one is non-directional, so we can kind of just put them any which way we like. And I'm not really worried about which, oh, hold on. We're probably going to want to clip these with some sewing clips, which are at my other machine, because I don't want it to move. And this is, I don't know what to call it. It's not slippery, it's not sticky, it's something. Either way, it doesn't like moving. So we want to have a zipper right sides down. So this is both a Seamingly Ugly. This is a great way to use this up. It's not terribly directional. I mean, it is a little bit, I think, but not so bad that this would matter. If you are using directional fabric, you would cut 2 of these on the outside and then 2 linings. That will solve your directional issues. So there's that, and then we're going to take this one, put it right sides down. Now because I'm on the green machine, it doesn't matter which one's right sides up for me today. If I was on the screen machines, my black one, you would want the lightest weight fabric underneath because you want the feed dogs to grab them, but I feel like this will be fine on here. So we're going to stitch forward and then back, making sure we don't knock that bit off the table. Oh, and then back stitch, lift it up, pull it out. Now I want to top stitch because I think it'll be pretty. I made one of these the other day and I only top stitch 1 layer. I would like to see what happens when I top stitch 2. These colors really do match quite well, and I feel like this will make them not look ugly. So winner chicken dinner. I'm going to top stitch at an 1/8 of an inch, and I'm not changing my stitch length just because I don't feel like it. Like so. Back stitch at the other end as well. Don't back stitch at full speed, it tends to give the bobbin dramas. So now I've stitched that side down as well as that side, looking good. Now if you want to, you can disconnect the zipper. Some people do, some people don't. Whatever makes you happy, really. Then we're going to put this right sides down and clip it on. Now I'm doing it this way because I'm really good at zippers and being able to put them back on, so I'm not super worried about that. I know some people quite often cut it longer. Personally, I think that's a waste of zipper tape when you just got to cut it off anyway. It's different if you bought a made one at the store. But if you're buying zipper tape by the meter, there's no need to have the extra and then waste it. Again, in my opinion. Depending on how much you sew, you'd be surprised at how much zipper tape you waste if you did it that way. Alright, so again, stitch forwards and then backwards, only about 2 or 3 stitches. And then we're going to pull off the clips as I go. I'm much better at doing that on this machine. I assume that's because the foot's not moving. I really don't want to get my finger. So then again, I'm going to finger press that down and then pinch it. And then pull it back, line it up, top stitch it. At 1/8 of an inch, which for me is the middle of my foot. Now if you're adding a tag, now's the time to do it. You kind of put it just below this line, so I'd put it right here. I need to make some more laser engraved ones because I think that's what I'm going to put on these. And then I'm going to bring it together and put my zipper pull on. So I'm going to thread in one side, then the other, push it down, zip it up, crack this end, and then I'm going to push the zipper to the middle. The middle ensures that it's completely out of the way and I'm not going to accidentally stitch it on anything, because nobody wants to do that. Now if you've done, oh my gosh, stop it, there we go. If you've done this where the outside was 2 separate pieces, the first thing you want to do is put right sides together and sew that bottom. Oops, I just cracked the zip on the other end. That's not what I wanted to do. So what we're going to do is feed it back on. Now I don't have a right and a wrong way for this, so it doesn't really matter. Also, I should have known that that was going to happen and tacked the zipper together before I tried to turn it through. It's fine, we just put it on that way instead. So I've got these 2 pieces. We're going to put these right sides together, and then I'm going to sew, not all of it, but like a section. So I'm going to sew past this part. We need to be in further than that on both sides, and you want to leave a gap in the middle. Now the bigger the gap you leave, the easier it is to turn, but the harder it is to kind of stitch up. So I'm going to go to just past here so that it's not going to be an issue. And then we're going to come to just in. And I'm doing 1/4 inch seam allowance for everything. And pull it out. Trim off all the tails. If you trim them as you go, you won't have drama later. So I'm going to flatten this out. Grab this part. Flatten this out. Layer it up. It does sit quite nicely because we top stitched both layers. So I'm pretty happy about doing that, actually. And then we're going to open this one out and lay it on top. Now, if you've done the correct seam allowance, everything should line up and be fabulous. So let's do it again on this side. We're going to take the flat bit and then the zipper. And then I like to clip 2 and then add in my 3rd. Again, personal preference. If you can grab all 3 at the same time, you should definitely do that. It'll be quicker. I never have a lot of success doing it that way, that's all. So we should have the zipper in here, and then we've got a whole bunch of boxy corners. Don't worry about them yet. And I'm going to stitch again with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So I'm going to stitch forward and back. Over we go. Oh, I definitely miss my my green machine. And then we're going to stitch, back stitch. Over we go. Back stitch. Pull it out. Trim off the tails because we don't want them around for this next part. So I'm going to start with the exterior because it's the bulkier, and we're going to pull it so it's straight, and I'm going to add some clips. Just on the exterior and not the lining. Then I'm going to take this lining one, and this is going to be a bit of a shove it around everywhere moment, but I want to make that line straight and then join it. So here's the exterior, here's the lining. We're going to sew it as one continuous piece. So the right angle corner, you want to get that so it's flat, and then bring it to the other one. Now this is going to make the bag kind of look a bit scrunched up. Don't worry about that. It'll look fine at the end. We care about the end result more than anything else here. So again, layer all of the layers up. I'm going to add a third clip in the middle just to hold it in place. And then I'm going to start here, stitch and back stitch. And then get all the way to the end and back stitch again. Trim off those tails. I feel pretty good about that. Now we're going to do the same to the other corners. Now the smaller the boxy bag, probably the trickier this is going to be, because I made a boxy bag the other day and it was much easier than this, but it was also much bigger. So there's the corner. I'm going to fold that in half, bring it to the edge over here, make sure that everything's lining up. And then same with this corner, pull it out so it's flat and even and fabulous like that. That one up, and a third clip. Now you can obviously add more clips if you feel more comfortable with more clips. We're going to stitch and back stitch, and over we go. And then that's one corner nightmare done. Don't be too worried about them, and make sure you trim those tails. We don't want those. Then I'm going to push out that, like so. And then one on this half, like that. And then again, lining. Now I'm just going to kind of scrunch it up a little bit. It'll make it easier to do the other corners. Is it a little bit fiddly? Yes, yes it is. But it'll be worth it when we finish. We just got to tug everything around until it sits where we want it to. Then under we go. We're going to do forward and back. And then back stitch at the other end. Pull it out, trim off the tails. This is just instead of having to sew all 8 corners, it probably is a little bit more fiddly, and I know it doesn't look very good at the moment. I'm also not really in a hurry to rip off all of this. That is just the tearaway stabilizer from the embroidery, but having it there is probably giving it a little bit extra shape. And because it was only a single stitch design, if I tug on it too hard, I could wreck the stitching. So it's just better to leave it there. So again, we're just gonna tug that over, line up the edge, fold it over, like that, and then there, and then shove that bit down out of the way. I know it looks really fiddly, and I mean it is a little bit, but it saves having to sew 8 corners. I can sew 4. Alright, stitch and back stitch. 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way across. I know some people prefer the 8 corners. You can do that. And then here's our gap. So we're just going to start shoving it through. I'm not even being overly polite about the whole thing. And then I'm going to crack the zip open as well. But before I turn the bag all the way through, I want to sew up this gap. So I'm going to pop both my fingers in, pushing that seam allowance down, and then I'm going to pull tight, and hopefully that will give us the seam allowance like that. And then if you need to, come along, add some clips, clip it up. Now I did this pretty bang on, so my stripes line up. That was a bit of a fluke. Oh, I suppose not so much a fluke. I cut them so that they lined up, and then I forgot about that. So if they didn't line up, it wasn't the end of the world. But it turns out they line up fine. So, you know, there's that. And then we're just stitching as close to that edge as you can, making sure that we backstitch at both ends. You can also hand stitch this to make that seam invisible. And I'm going to tell you right now, we got a bit of a rat's nest here. So that was because I wasn't holding my tails like you're supposed to. I never do. We don't always get a rat's nest, and sometimes we get it and we don't care about it. These are one of those ones that we actually want to cut off. So I'm just going to unfluff it from there. Better. And then we get all these random strands as well. It is the curse of cotton. Sometimes it's a bit blur. And then I'm going to push out all 4 corners so that they look fabulous. Now I just put a cheap foam in this. It's called peeled foam, and it's from 6mm peeled foam from Clark Rubber. And then we're just going to do that up. And then I want to kind of almost crease the zipper to give it its shape a little bit more. And voila. Now we have a cute little boxy pouch. I like the florals in this. I love the square design. I think that's prettier than just a standard whatever. And the only place that hasn't got quilting is kind of here, this end. So the end caps don't. If you had a bigger embroidery machine, you could absolutely do the ends. And then the inside, even though it's cotton, is fun and stripy and exciting. So it went from ugly fabric, which I didn't really know what I was going to do with this, to I really like that that matches. I like that it's a bit darker on the inside, so if you're going to fill it full of makeup or something, you won't see the marks as easily. And there we go. One beautiful boxy pouch. Thank you for tuning in to my Seemingly Ugly video. Make sure you hit like down below, wherever that is. I will put a link to this pattern in the description. The pattern comes in 4 sizes, which is fun, so you can get lots of different things out of it. And I will see you all in the next video.